Now, from Nebraska's trusted news source, this is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 5.
Coming up this morning, new studies are being done on ties to sleep and dementia. Reporter Jael Pembroke is going to join us with a local doctor's input.
Plus, we're just 2 days away from the spring game. The city lets you know how to make your game day experience the best.
Now, after just 100 days, I can report to the nation, America is on the move again.
President Biden gives his first address to Congress while tensions remain high across the country. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Katrina Spurl.
And I'm Andrew Ward. Well, the weather colder yesterday, but heating back up. Brittany Foster joining us right now. Brittany, earlier 70s today, is that right?
Oh yes, 70s finally back in the forecast for today, but we are starting off just like yesterday in those 40s. So with that said, make sure you have the kids at the bus stop, at least with a light jacket on to keep them comfortable while they are standing outside. Wind speeds are fairly light right now though, so they don't have to deal with much of a wind chill. As for temperatures across the state, we are seeing a little bit of some 30s. The good news off to the west of the state. 38 degrees are current temperature in Scottsbluff. It's 46 in Valentine, 39 at Broken Bow, and 44 in Grand Island. But if we take a look closer to home around Lincoln, a little bit more of those 40s. 46 here in the capital city with 45 in Aurora, York, even in Norfolk right now, and also clear skies. We will start off your Thursday with nice sunrise out there, and it'll help quickly heat us up. And a little bit of a difference too is still fairly light winds right now, but later today, once we do heat up, wind speeds will start to pick up out of the northwest again. So a cool breeze coming in, gusts up to 30 miles per hour. So not going to be a good hair day for the second half of the day today, but look at those high temperatures, finally seeing them back in the low 70s, and this warming trend just continues into the weekend. We'll take a look at what your weekend forecast looks like. That's coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Brittany. Well, speaking of the weekend, it's almost here, the spring game, just 2 days away. The city providing some accommodations to avoid game day traffic and parking challenges. Parking will be reserved and prepaid at city garages designated with Park and Go signs. Park and Go cashiers also sell $10 permits for all-day parking in downtown metered spaces. You can visit parkandgo.org to find locations and rates to reserve parking.
As for downtown, the Big Red Express will not be offered for this year's spring game, and rideshare services like Uber, Lyft, they have designated a drop-off pickup area on Vine Street just east of 14th Street. And UNL parking lots will open at 9 a.m. Gates to the stadium open at 11 a.m. There will be no re-entry into the game this year, and Bike LNK will have a free, secure area for cyclists to store a bike, helmet, and one bag per bike.
More than 32,000 tickets have already been sold, with remaining tickets still available through kickoff. But if you can't make the game, it will be broadcasted on the Big Ten Network. And of course, we will have you covered right here on Channel 8 throughout the day on the air and online. Well, looking ahead, Mayor Leary Gaylor Baird will kick off the 4th Walmart diaper drive at a news conference this morning at 10 o'clock. She'll be at the 27th Street location.
And diapers can be donated from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday at all 4 Lincoln Walmart locations. You can drop them off at the StarTran buses near the store's entrances. If you're looking for an interesting part-time job, Henry Dorley Zoo will be holding a job fair today. They're trying to fill almost 200 part-time positions. It's going to be happening from 4 to 6 p.m. at the zoo's Durham's Top restaurant, and those interested must apply online at least 24 hours before the job fair. That web address is at the bottom of your screen right there, omahazoo.com/workhere. Sleep, something we all need more of, right?
Absolutely. Well, but a study is showing people who get less than 7 hours of sleep on nights are at risk of developing dementia. New this morning, Channel 8's Jael Pembroke has more. Jael.
Good morning. I hope you're getting enough sleep because this sure caught my attention. A recent study shows that elderly people who get less than 7 hours of sleep are more likely to develop dementia.
But there certainly is a correlation between aging and poor sleep or lack of sleep. There's a significant number, probably maybe even as high as 50% or more of elderly people who have sleeping issues. And it's a big issue that is really under-addressed, mostly because we don't necessarily have good ways to treat it all the time.
A Nature Communications study studied the habits of 8,000 people for 25 years and found that people who slept 6 hours or less were more likely to develop dementia. Dr. Robinson says This is a big step in finding what causes dementia and Alzheimer's, but so far this shows that age and sleep issues could be a factor.
You start to retire and then you have more time on your hands. And then sometimes that change can be a big issue too. And so people that are retired and in their late 60s, early 70s, even into your 80s, start to have poor sleep because the routine is gone.
Robinson says many people in their 50s and 60s have sleep apnea and are not diagnosed. He adds that men who are overweight in that age range are more likely to have these issues. Now, the doctor says it's important to have a healthy sleep routine. What's that, you may ask? I'll have more for you right here at 6, guys.
Yeah, certainly my son doesn't know that. Thank you very much, Jael. A proposal to indirectly subsidize private K through 12 schools in Nebraska by offering tax credits to scholarship donors has stalled after opponents blocked the measure with a filibuster. Supporters of the bill say it was a way to give low-income students more choices if a public school doesn't meet their needs. Those who opposed it argued it would divert tax dollars away from K through 12 public schools and other priorities.
Nebraska State Patrol is investigating a crash that killed 2 people, sent a child to the hospital. Tuesday morning, a truck was headed west on Highway 6 near Holdridge, and NSP says it crossed into the opposite lane and hit a minivan. The driver of the truck, Dylan Skeen, was taken to the hospital where he later died, and Carrie Burnstraw was driving the minivan. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The child was sent to the hospital and as of right now, serious injuries. A Fairbury man has his neighbor to thank for saving his life.
Yeah, Chris Porter was fast asleep while his home was in flames.
So I took all my stuff out and put it on the coffee table and went and sat in my bed waiting on my laundry to get done. And I dozed off. That was about 8 o'clock last night. And the next thing I know, I'm getting dragged out my bed by my neighbor.
His house was engulfed with flames at around 10:30 Tuesday night. Porter says investigators are assuming it was a cigarette that caused the fire, but are working to determine the official cause. Porter is grateful his neighbor was there to rescue him.
Without words, I lost everything and I don't know where to start, but I mean, I guess my biggest thanks is to him because I am here. All the stuff can be replaced, but it was everything I owned in that house. So.
Wow, really emotional there. We did talk to the neighbor who rescued Porter but didn't want to be interviewed. Officials are investigating the cause of the fire. Well, history was made last night at a joint session of Congress. President Joe Biden laid out his policy agenda during his primetime address.
Speaking directly to the American people, the president touched on the coronavirus pandemic, but also focused on his plans for his presidency. ABC's Ika Jachi is in Washington with more on the president's speech.
President Biden addressing his first joint session of Congress by urging lawmakers to use the country's emergence from the pandemic to rebuild the economy.
America is on the move again.
And taking stock of his first 100 days.
America's house was on fire. We had to act.
He called on Congress to take action on his massive infrastructure bill, while he unveiled a separate sweeping child care and education plan. Biden is now asking Congress to pass a total of more than $4 trillion in new spending, saying he wants to raise taxes on the most wealthy Americans to pay for it.
I think you should be able to become a billionaire and a millionaire, but pay your fair share.
President Biden noting the historic nature of 2 women seated behind him, Vice President Harris and Speaker Pelosi.
And it's about time.
The president also welcomed new talks on his infrastructure bill, which faces fierce Republican opposition for its $2 trillion price tag and broad scope. As for working with Republicans, the president showed some limits to his patience.
I just want to be clear. From my perspective, doing nothing is not an option.
Senator Tim Scott delivering the Republican response to Biden's speech.
It's a liberal wish list of big government waste, plus the biggest job-killing tax hikes in a generation.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie adding to Republican objections.
The words of this speech sounded like what you would hear from a 15-year-old if you gave him a credit card with no credit limit on it, except the words came out of the mouth of an adult who should know better.
President Biden is hitting the road today to sell his proposals. He's going to start with a rally in Georgia, where he'll also meet former President Jimmy Carter. Ika Jachi, ABC News, Washington.
And U.S. Senator Ben Sasse released the following statement after President Biden called for restrictions on Americans' right to own guns.
Our Constitution protects law-abiding citizens' right to bear arms, period. We're not going to make America any safer by going after responsible gun owners and by calling for sweeping, unconstitutional gun bans. Let's enforce the laws we already have on the books, and let's crack down on violent criminals.
And coming up this morning on GMA, Vice President Kamala Harris will be sitting down with the team for an executive interview following President Biden's first address. So make sure you stick with Channel 8 throughout your morning. Southeast Community College in Lincoln is getting a $30 million facelift.
Yeah, they held a groundbreaking ceremony to commemorate the achievement.
Affordable access to higher education.
Yeah, the renovations include an instructional and academic support center that features a virtual reality room, and it also includes a student union.
The current students, they really know that the faculty and the administration, that they really care about their students, and especially for future students, that's going to be a good way to get them to actually want to come to SEC, and they can increase the admission level.
Renovations started last month. About 80,000 square feet of the current main building will be completely renovated, and more than 25,000 square feet of the new construction will be added. They hope to have it done in 2023. The documentary We Will Not Be Silent follows the 4-month journey of 8 students from Belmont Elementary School and the mentors who guide them as they prepare for their moving performance at the Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally in March last January.
And this hour-long documentary will be released coming up on Monday, May 3rd. There will be a special live stream and panel discussion at noon, and the live stream event and full documentary is going to be available on the LPS website. Coming up next, imagine coming home to hundreds of birds invading your home. One California family had to deal with that.
We're going to take a look at this massive burden when we come back.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a look at the market futures for this morning. Dow Jones projected to be up by 135, NASDAQ also up by 129.50. The former Cleveland police officer who shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice in 2014 wants his job back. Timothy Loehmann's attorneys filed an appeal last week, and Loehmann fatally shot Rice after he mistook a toy pistol for a real firearm. No criminal charges were ever filed, but Loehmann was fired in 2017 for lying on his job application to join the Cleveland police force. And Loehmann wants the Ohio Supreme Court to review his termination.
A Louisville police officer who was wounded in the Breonna Taylor drug raid is retiring from the force. Officer John Mattingly says he did not expect to leave, but it's in the best interest of his family. He added he hopes the city of Louisville, Kentucky, can heal and unite. Mattingly was shot in the leg by Taylor's boyfriend after 7 officers broke through her door last March. Officers responded with more than 30 shots, killing Taylor in the crossfire. The raid turned up no drugs or money, but the killing contributed to nationwide protests over police incidents, resulting in the deaths of African Americans.
Police have identified a woman suspected of opening fire at a daycare facility in Memphis. They say Daja Taylor fired one shot into the door of La Petite Academy on Tuesday. Before that, investigators say she got into an argument with an employee over her child's attendance. She later tried to re-enter the facility. The door was locked. Police say she fired the round, even though there were more than 60 children inside. Thankfully, no one was injured.
The West Coast faces another wildfire season without one of its best weapons. The Boeing 747-4000 supertanker, the largest firefighting plane in the world, is grounded. Alterna, the Colorado-based owner of the 19,000-gallon craft, says the federal contracts it secured to battle blazes wasn't bringing in enough of a profit. This plane was used during the massive El Dorado fire last year. More than 4 million acres were scorched in California during the 2020 wildfire season.
Crews working to contain a brush fire called the North Fire in Southern California. According to the Los Angeles County Fire Department, firefighters were sent to a home around 1:30 in the afternoon. In just a few hours, the fire had grown to 150 acres and it was 0% contained.
An astronaut who made history alongside Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin has died. Michael Collins passed away from cancer yesterday. His family confirmed his death in a statement on social media. In 1969, Collins piloted Apollo 11 as Armstrong and Aldrin walked on the moon. NASA says he was also the 3rd American to perform a spacewalk. Collins was 90 years old.
The International Space Station crew is getting fresh vegetables in space. NASA showed off crew the successful experiment that astronaut Michael Hopkins is undertaking. And Hopkins has been growing 2 different kinds of greens on the ISS, the Amara mustard and the extra dwarf pak chow. With no birds or bees around, he had to pollinate the flowers with a paintbrush, and the crops were grown for 64 days.
Speaking of birds, here's some foul play. Hundreds of birds made themselves at home in a family's house in Torrance, California. This Torrance family says they came home from dinner and walked into a scene that looked like it was taken right out of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. A friend called animal control to remove more than 800 of them out of his home by hand. After working through the night, they thought they had gotten rid of all the birds, but some continued to hide inside the home for 2 more days.
Could have been worse with like spiders or bugs.
Cockroaches, we were talking about that this morning.
We'll talk about a beast of a traffic jam. An alligator blocked traffic on a busy bridge during the lunchtime commute in Houston. You're looking at the video. Police and animal control crews responded to the scene. At first, the gator backed away, but authorities were able to rope it, and it took about 5 officers to help wrangle the roughly 8-foot-long reptile, but they did manage to secure it and load it into the truck. They took it under a bridge to release it. Something we don't see every day here in Nebraska.
No, thank goodness. I'm happy we don't see that here in Nebraska. You know what we're also not seeing, guys? Rain this morning.
Right.
Not seeing any across the entire state, all of it off to the east right now, along a large cold front that gave us a little bit of rain yesterday, still causing a lot of trouble. Flood warnings in effect as this large system pushes off to the east. But like I said, we are calm here in our state and also cloud free. The entire state not dealing with any clouds this morning. Now, usually overnight that allows our temperatures to drop, and that's exactly what happened overnight. We're now back in the mid 40s here in Lincoln. It's 46 degrees, feels just a few degrees cooler, more like 44 out there with just about 5-mile-per-hour wind speeds. And as for everyone else, seeing a lot more of those 40s. The 50s about an hour ago that we had have long disappeared. It's now 44 degrees in Grand Island as well as Aurora, 46 in Fairbury, 49 in Nebraska City, and 47 degrees in Omaha. So one of those mornings you want to have a light layer on, definitely for the kids who have to stand outside the bus stop. And by the time the sun goes up at 6:28, it should start to heat us up because we'll have widespread sunshine. We do get to see the sunrise this morning. And when I mean a quick heat up or a warm up, I mean a very fast one. We'll go from those 40s by around 7 o'clock to the 70s for some of you, possibly as soon as 12 o'clock today. So it will not take long for temperatures really to jump to those low 70s, and we'll really stay in the low 70s throughout the entire day today. But it will be on the breezy side, wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour out of the northwest. So high temperatures across southeast Nebraska, common number looking like 73 degrees for today. Not seeing much of it. It's going to be stuck in those upper 60s. So finally back above average to the 70s. I know many of you like, but again, the downside is today it would be pretty windy. Right now, 5 miles per hour, not that bad out there. But once we get to 1 o'clock, at least until 5, maybe even 6 o'clock, those wind gusts will peak about 30 miles per hour. So windy second half of your Thursday, but they will calm down just in time for overnight tonight. Now, looking at this weekend forecast, if you like the 80s, you will love the weekend. 86 degrees is your current high temperature for Saturday. A little bit cooler on Sunday as a cold front will be moving through. Still sunny skies. 81 degrees your high, then with a chance for some thunderstorms for the second half of your Sunday. So most of the day looking dry right now for Sunday. Late in the day, though, thunderstorms in the forecast. Now today, not expecting any thunderstorms or clouds up in the sky. We'll have that sun back up there helping get us to those low 70s. Again, your high in Lincoln, 73 degrees with breezy conditions. But later tonight, the wind is actually going to shift back out of the southwest. That is great news for the next several days. Overnight tonight, we still, though, will drop to about 45 degrees. So kind of repeating this morning as we start off your Friday forecast, but we could see some 80s already going into Friday. Very warm ending to this work week, staying warm at least through Sunday. But then that cold front moves through, cooling us back down to the upper 60s for your Monday. Showers in the forecast. And we could see more of those showers at least lasting through Wednesday of next week. Now, we'll be right around average for high temperatures, but after that second half of the week, back in those 70s.
Brittany, we bought that pool, the little kiddie pool, you know, and Theo, my son, he's been asking me when we can use it, or he's been pointing at it anyway. He can't really ask me yet. But I told him, Brittany said maybe this weekend.
Yes, this weekend. Fill that pool up.
But Katrina says now. You can do it now. You can do it now.
A little cold today, right?
Yeah, a little chilly.
All right, thank you so much, Brittany. Coming up next, local pharmacies are offering COVID-19 vaccines without appointments. We'll tell you who next.
Plus, some positive news from Bryan Health this morning. Local doctors feeling some relief after months of surging COVID-19 cases. Stay tuned.
We want to connect with you. Breaking news, weather videos, snapshots from your life. Share with us in seconds. Just download the KLKN TV app and look for Submit News and Photos in the main menu. Upload or message us your story idea instantly.
Good morning and welcome back. Well, federal agents executed search warrants at the apartment and office of Rudy Giuliani, a close ally of former President Trump. Giuliani's lawyer says the warrant was for the investigation into a possible violation of foreign lobbying laws. It sought communications between Giuliani and others, including columnist and Fox News contributor John Solomon. The New York Times reports investigators seized Giuliani's electronic devices. The search advances the ongoing criminal investigation into Giuliani. The former New York mayor turned Trump lawyer has been the focus of a probe concerning his activities in the Ukraine. He denies any wrongdoing and hasn't been charged.
The Department of Justice is allowing so-called sanctuary cities to receive federal grants for criminal justice efforts, and this reverses a controversial Trump administration policy that was enacted back in 2017. It cuts off hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to cities that did not fully cooperate with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. And former Attorney General Jeff Sessions said government funding was contingent.
Refugees who were banned from coming to the U.S. during the Trump White House are gradually being booked on flights. This comes after President Biden cast a wider net for who can resettle in the United States. Resettlement agencies say people who were not eligible to travel under the Trump-era restrictions, like those from Syria and Yemen, are now allowed to immigrate. Biden signed the emergency declaration after weeks of dragging his feet. The State Department says as the end of the March, about 2,000 refugees had been admitted to the U.S.
Arizona's governor signed a new law prohibiting abortions done solely because of generic abnormalities such as Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis. The bill passed both houses of the state legislature last week on narrow party line votes. The law requires medical providers to sign an affidavit swearing an abortion is not being done because of an abnormality. And there is an exception if the condition, of course, is considered fatal.
President Biden and the First Lady will meet with former President Jimmy Carter and former First Lady Rosalind Carter in their hometown of Plains, Georgia today. The White House had previously announced the Bidens would attend a drive-in rally in Atlanta to mark his 100th day in office.
Coming up next, we have brand new information coming in overnight from both Pfizer and Moderna.
Plus, the U.S. preparing to send help to India after more than 300,000 new COVID-19 cases. We hear from the White House next.
Now, from Nebraska's trusted news source, this is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 5.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for starting your Thursday with us already.
Absolutely. A little colder yesterday, but Mother Nature cranking it up just a little bit. More comfortable out there today, Brittany.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot more people are going to like the high temperatures for later today. A little bit warmer, but this morning starting off just like we did yesterday, but without the clouds. Temperature-wise the same, but cloud coverage all now off to the east of the state. We are cloud-free, and that has allowed temperatures to drop down to those mid-40s. Close around the Lincoln area, we're seeing 46 degrees at the airport, almost 50 degrees at Holmes Lake. You all are currently sitting at 49 degrees, and we aren't seeing really any 50s anymore for southeast Nebraska. The only spot right now is Falls City at 53 degrees. It's 43, big drop down in Hastings right now, 47 in Omaha, 46 in Beatrice, and 42 degrees in Central City. So it's a great morning to have at least a light jacket or a little bit of a layer on for now while temperatures are in the 40s, but we will see the 50s around 8 o'clock, 60s by 10 o'clock. Big jumps up in temperatures today, all thanks to widespread sunshine returning to the forecast, helping boost up our temperatures. Now, we won't be stuck in the 60s today. The 70s are finally back in the forecast. We'll top out in those low 70s, but even the 70s won't last for long. But this is a good thing because the 80s, if you like the warmer weather, are back in the forecast just in time for this weekend. We'll take a look at that weekend forecast. It's all coming up in a few minutes.
Love all the sunshine. Thank you, Brittany. Well, some great news to share with you this morning.
That's right. It's now been 2 weeks without a COVID patient on a ventilator at Bryan Health.
It is just incredible to see, and I think you can feel it in every part of the hospital as far as the improvements that we've made, but coming from the places that we were in November, it's been just an incredible journey.
Back around Thanksgiving, when COVID cases were through the roof, Dr. Matt Mislanka of Bryan Health had about 18 COVID positive patients on ventilators. But now, months later, our healthcare heroes are seeing a difference, and that is bringing hope to those who have been on the front lines since the pandemic started.
It's great to see these numbers that we're seeing now and that we've really seen over the last few months. But to have 2 weeks without one ventilator is an incredible thing.
Yes, you heard him right. Bryan Health hasn't seen a COVID positive patient on a ventilator in 2 weeks. And doctors believe vaccines, responsible decisions, and masks are just some of the contributing factors to the decline in COVID positive patients. And they are very optimistic the trend will continue.
Well, the CDC intends to have more incentives to get fully vaccinated in its new guidelines. Top U.S. health officials say there's an increasing information suggesting the spread of COVID-19 is happening mostly indoors. That's one of the reasons those who are fully vaccinated can now unmask outdoors. Meanwhile, fewer people are getting their first COVID-19 shot than those receiving their second, according to the CDC. Officials hope loosening some of those guidelines will help encourage people to get their vaccine.
This is incentive to try and tell people, like, okay, now that we know these vaccines can save your life, here's what you get to do with that life.
Americans can expect even more updated guidance. A recent poll found 28% of Americans remain vaccine hesitant.
And here's what's ahead of us for vaccine clinics this week. There is one happening today at Pinnacle Bank Arena, just second doses. Saturday, another drive-through clinic. This is for first and second doses at the garages of the old Sears store. And the health department is still working with local high schools this week.
And if you want a COVID shots, you do not need an appointment at Hy-Vee. All of its pharmacies have plenty of supplies. You can sign up on their website or just show up. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone.
Young people should get vaccinated to avoid the long-term consequences of COVID-19. This is the latest information from the director of the National Institutes of Health.
Yeah, a study by the CDC last summer showed out of the 18 to 34-year-olds, 1 in 5 who tested positive for COVID-19 had not fully recovered within 3 weeks. About 11 to 15% of children infected with COVID-19 can go on to develop long COVID. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he hopes the FDA will approve COVID vaccines soon. All 3 vaccines currently being given in the U.S. only have emergency use authorization.
And that means the FDA has determined the potential benefits outweigh known and potential risks.
When you're getting a formal approval, you have to have a certain amount of time just observing predominantly the safety, and obviously the safety looks really, really good in well over 140 million people having been vaccinated with at least a single dose. That's the kind of thing that the FDA will do as expeditiously as possible.
Vaccine makers will have to file a separate application for vaccines to be fully licensed.
According to the CDC study, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines drastically reduce the rate of hospitalization among older adults by 94%. That's for anyone at least 65 years or older in the U.S. The study included data on more than 400 older Americans with COVID-19-like symptoms who were admitted into hospitals between January and late March. The researchers found among those who tested positive, most were unvaccinated. The CDC says these findings are consistent with the clinical trial results for both vaccines.
Well, back on April 1st, Moderna announced that the FDA had authorized 2 vial presentations for its COVID vaccine. Moderna is now saying the initial availability date of the vials has not been disclosed yet. But there is some concern that it might be different to use larger vials for certain hard-to-reach populations. They say this could put some doses at risk of being wasted.
Here's the latest on COVID-19 in Lancaster County. 53 new cases, bringing the community total to nearly 31,000. The total number of deaths remains at 232. More than 27,700 people have recovered from the virus.
India's COVID crisis is getting worse by the day. The country reporting more than 360,000 new cases, the most anywhere in a single day since the start of the pandemic. And nearly 3,300 people died, the most ever in India in one day. And India's official death toll is now topping 200,000. An influential model in the U.S. projects nearly 1 million people in India could die of COVID-19 by August.
And as getting help to India continues, U.S. military personnel hard at work at California's Travis Air Force Base. The service members preparing desperately needed coronavirus relief supplies to be flown to India. Those supplies include oxygen tanks, N95 masks, and COVID rapid diagnostic kits.
Vital medical supplies are finally reaching India. Aid from Russia, Singapore, and Mauritius just arrived into the country. More than half a dozen nations have so far delivered or pledged to help the country. And among those are the U.S., the UK, the European Union, China, Australia, and its neighbor Pakistan, despite some ongoing tensions between the two. And India's government has been criticized for a slow vaccine rollout.
Serum Institute India announced an immediate price reduction for COVID vaccines from about $5.30 a dose to $4. Its CEO says the move will increase the number of vaccinations in India.
We are supporting India with what we can. We don't have any excess doses of vaccine in the UK at the moment, but what we have done is by providing the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine at cost and working with the Serum Institute of India.
Italy has joined a growing list of countries banning flights to and from India. The U.S. has issued an advisory against travel to India, but has not restricted incoming flights.
Earlier this week, the White House press secretary was asked why the U.S. has not followed suit.
On India and the explosion of COVID cases there, the UK and Canada have already instituted a travel ban in regards to India. Why isn't the US doing the same?
We would make those determinations based on the advice of our health and medical team. They haven't made that determination at this point.
Well, new details released in the second version of the Olympic playbook for athletes and team members. All participants will be required to take 2 COVID-19 tests before entering Japan, with athletes and those in close proximity being tested every day after arrival. Organizers confirmed last month overseas spectators will not be allowed into Japan for the games. The third and final version of the playbook is expected to be published in June.
For the first time since the global coronavirus pandemic, most Americans feel good about the economy. SSRS just conducted a new poll and they asked more than 1,000 people about economic conditions in the U.S. 54% said economic conditions are either somewhat or very good, and compare that to last May when 65% of Americans said the opposite. They thought economic conditions at that time were somewhat poor or very poor.
The Federal Reserve said again Wednesday it is leaving interest rates unchanged despite signs that the U.S. economy is getting stronger. Right now, interest rates are in the range of 0 to 0.25%. That will remain the case until the Fed sees maximum employment and inflation of roughly 2% over the longer term.
Disneyland workers got to preview the park ahead of its grand reopening this weekend. Disneyland and California Adventure held soft openings for cast members and their families this week. The theme park has been closed since March of last year because of the pandemic. So to prepare for the reopening, Disney hired back thousands of its employees, and Disneyland reopens to guests this Friday, tomorrow already, at only 25% capacity. Coming up after the break, a Nebraska man is arrested after dozens of dead and injured livestock was found on his property. Stay with us.
Good morning and welcome back. Let's get you up to date on all the latest agriculture news. As restaurants reopen, big chicken orders are on the rise.
And the trucking industry could trigger a gas shortage this summer. Jane King has those stories and more in our Ag and Energy report today.
The truck driver shortage threatens the gas supply. Opus Energy analyst global head Tom Kloza says the lack of drivers may cause gas stations to scramble to meet supply demand. Now, these comments come on the heel of Florida experiencing a gas shortage during spring break when retailers struggled to get trucks to deliver gas from the terminals to stations. Kloza is worried the shortage could potentially linger nationwide until Labor Day. Well, Valens, a Canadian marijuana producer, signed a deal to buy Florida-based Green Roads as part of its initial expansion into the U.S. Meanwhile, Global Cannabis Applications Corporation CEO Bradley Moore explains how they are using technology to make shoppers more comfortable with what marijuana products they're buying.
The cultivators know that we're speaking to their consumers that are using medical cannabis and teaching them what safe, efficient, effective-based medical cannabis should look like.
The technology is used in every stage of the process to authenticate best practices, certify compliance, enhance confidence, and improve the experience. Well, big birds are making a comeback. That's the view of Pilgrim's Pride, the second biggest U.S. chicken producer. Bloomberg reports that orders are up for birds that weigh around 9 pounds. Those are mostly used by restaurants and other food service outlets. And food website Epicurious says it will no longer publish recipes using beef, citing the environmental harm caused by cattle farming. Some praise the decision, noting the tastes have changed and that readers are looking for more plant-based dishes. Others slammed Epicurious for canceling beef. From New York, I'm Jane King with your Ag and Energy Report.
A Grand Island man has been arrested after authorities allegedly found dozens of dead or injured livestock on his farm. According to court records, 41-year-old Grant Edwardson faces 24 felony counts of abandonment, cruel neglect of livestock resulting in injury or death, and 3 misdemeanor counts of abandonment, cruel neglect of livestock. And a judge sent bond for Edwardson at $5,000. He is scheduled to appear in court in June. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has set a May 12th deadline for Canadian energy company Enbridge to shut down its Line 5, and this delivers oil from Alberta to refineries in the U.S., Midwest, and Eastern Canada.
Whitmer agrees with environmentalists who consider the pipeline an environmental hazard. Canadian officials say closing that pipeline would hurt the economy and cost jobs in both countries. Well, still ahead, President Biden addresses Congress for the first time in his presidency.
Plus, new studies are showing ties between sleep and dementia cases. Jael Pembroke is going to join us to explain what this means.
Now, your Storm Alert Team Forecast from meteorologist Brittany Foster.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. We're getting closer to 6 o'clock, and you can see just a mess unfolding along a huge cold front off to the east of Nebraska, getting ready to push out of Missouri right now. Flood warnings in effect for all of those that are dealing with that rain, but we are completely calm and dry this morning now here in our state, Nebraska. Not seeing any clouds out there this morning, and that has resulted in overnight lows to really drop. That blanket I talked about when we have the clouds, well, we didn't have one overnight to keep us warm. So it is a little bit cooler out there. We are seeing some 30s. North Platte, 38 degrees, also 38 in Scottsbluff, 45 in O'Neill, and 48 down in Hebron, but closer to home, a little bit more 40s in the forecast for this morning. Right now, it's currently 46 degrees in Lincoln, 44 in Grand Island and Kearney, 47 if you live in Omaha, and 53. The warmest spot still continues to be Falls City. So definitely want to have a light jacket on this morning as you step outside. It will be a little chilly out there with just a nice light breeze out of the northwest, but look at our sunrise. Already starting to see it come up off in the distance. A little bit of color out there with the nice clear skies and that sunshine. It's going to stick around the rest of the day today. Cloud-free conditions, we will quickly heat up as a result. We'll go from the 40s by 7 this morning to the 70s for some of us as soon as 12 o'clock. Now with those increasing temperatures, we'll also see increasing wind speeds out of the northwest, so a cool breeze coming in. But temperatures still a little bit more on the mild side today, back in those 70s. And yes, we will stay dry throughout your entire Thursday. Here's a look at high temperatures across the entire area. 73 are high in Nebraska City, 75 possibly in Hebron, and 73 degrees for the entire Tri-City area. Really seeing a lot of those low 70s for all of us today. A few mid-70s further down to the south, but also all of us seeing those gusty conditions. We'll really start to see wind speeds picking up as we head into the afternoon. A little bit into the early evening hours, wind gusts getting close to about 30 miles per hour, so pretty breezy as we head throughout your Thursday, but those wind speeds should calm down and change out of the south just in time for this weekend, giving us high temperatures in the 80s, 86 degrees, still your current high temperature for Saturday, low 80s on Sunday. A cold front will move through, giving us a chance for thunderstorms, but until we get to those 80s, we are stuck with the low 70s for today. So the sun at least is back in the forecast. Your high again, 73 degrees, the decent breeze out there. The wind will calm down overnight tonight. The wind back out of the south. Good news again for the next several days. And it could be one of the last mornings we do see temperatures dipping down into the 40s, because after that we heat up thanks to those southerly winds. Sunday morning, your low temperature 62 degrees. And then things start to a little bit kind of jump up and down a little bit next week. As rain's back in the forecast, we drop back to the 60s by Monday, at least through Wednesday. Rain in the forecast with high temperatures again stuck in the 60s, 70s, not until the second half of next week.
So bad hair day today with the wind going on right
Bad
there, right?
hair day. Don't wear the hat, could fly away. Just let your hair fly and let it be a mess. We'll understand.
Just own it, right? You guys
Own it.
fly in the breeze. All right, thank you, Brittany. Well, the 2021 NFL Draft is here. It starts tonight right here on Channel 8 and is being held in Cleveland this year. Katrina.
The city is bracing for thousands of fans to pour into town, and Clay Leopard got an advance inside look at the entire NFL Draft experience.
You can take your chance against Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry virtually.
It's a chance to run the 40, throw a pass on the field at First Energy Stadium.
Over here in the corner will be the play football field.
And get up close with your favorite team. The NFL Draft experience is set to open this week, hosting up to 50,000 fans each day in and around First Energy Stadium.
Because we want as many fans as possible to experience our event, especially in a COVID world where capacities are a concern. This is the biggest campus we can get, so this is where we wanted to be.
Most of the space is open to all fans with a free ticket, but about 4,000 to 5,000 fans will be allowed in a special vaccinated fans area, rewarded with a closer look at the NFL Draft stage. As for the weather,
Just like at a Browns game, we play in the rain.
NFL leaders say the gates will remain open. However, some draft experience events may be suspended if the field is too slick.
We're going to be open, rain or shine.
If you're worried about the rain, the NFL says you can bring an umbrella, and there's covered spaces such as this NFL locker room experience, highlighting today's players and paying homage to some familiar faces of the past. If you still haven't secured a free ticket to the experience,
We are not sold out yet.
you're in luck, especially when it comes to Friday and Saturday.
We do have tickets available in several sessions.
Those tickets can be secured through the NFL One Pass app.
Coming up this morning on GMA, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell sits down with the team for an exclusive interview looking ahead at the draft. Make sure you stick with Channel 8 throughout your morning. And an Omaha woman is now America's oldest living person. Thelma Sutcliffe is 114 years old. Thelma lives in a senior center in Omaha. She said what she wants the most is to eat with her friends again after a year of pandemic restrictions. How cool is that?
114 years. She's seen a lot.
Oh my goodness. She's lived through 2 pandemics, I believe, in that time. So this is nothing for her. All right, still ahead, a diaper drive is being held in Lincoln. We'll tell you how you can help.